All right, are we ready to do this?
I guess.
We're live, everybody, but we haven't actually started recording yet, so just so you know. All right, we ready? Got all your stuff ready?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hog Ripe. This is episode 3 of season 2. Right off the bat, you want to see we have a guest with us. We're going to be talking about jobs and job interviews, and the lighting's not perfect, but what are you going to do? Right before we get going, I do want to talk a little bit about, I have a correction.
Disclaimer.
No, not a disclaimer, a correction. Last week we talked about people firing their guns up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And I had put my neck on the line, which I'm kind of glad that we did it because I learned a few things and it gives us a chance to talk about the topic again. But as it turns out, I was only thinking of one scenario, which is really short-minded and one-sided and all that crap. So just want to say I'm sorry. What I was doing was when someone says the word shooting their guns in the air, I typically think of literally straight up. And in that scenario was the only one that I was thinking of. That's in that scenario, when the bullet comes back down, it's a very, 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 very slim chance that it's going to kill you because it's just not enough speed or weight to go through your skull. However, what I did not do was taking into account if you don't shoot straight up, but if you shoot at an angle, like those of you who are not watching the video, if you have the gun and your hip pointing straight out horizontally, if you pick up the barrel enough to where you can see the barrel in your face.
About 40 degrees. 45.
Yeah, something like that. That's how most people shoot in the air, and that is a completely different situation.
Because you're still getting the velocity from the...
Right. It starts tumbling, and it curves, and it's heading towards the ground while it's still under the power of the gunpowder, which means it not only is deadly, it's very deadly. Like it falls at like 300 to 700 feet per second. And that's what I was wrong. So what I was saying, I was not wrong. I was only thinking of that one perfect scenario. So as it turns out, I am wrong, and I am sorry. If you shoot a gun into the air, as I said before, you are a moron. And that's probably how that Amish girl got tagged.
Probably. He's probably just shooting at an angle.
Yeah.
She just happened to be in that direction.
So, look, it's like this. If you know New Year's is coming up and you're one of these guys that just don't care, you want to shoot, go buy blanks, all right? It's the same thing, makes the same amount of noise, and it won't kill anybody. All right, well, enough about that. So, sorry about that, and I'll do better to be more accurate in the future. I do have to... I'm not even going to go into that. Dude, we are dropping frames like you would not believe.
Oh, I believe it.
Like, we may have to stop live streaming. Sorry, YouTube.
You didn't shut everything off.
Yeah, I think what it is I think the laptop is just too far away from the router. But, oh well. Who cares? It's YouTube. Nobody cares about YouTube. All right, well, what do you got, Adam?
Well, we're doing the show today on talking about jobs and doing job interviews and what to ask and what's going to be asked of you and how to prepare. We might as well go with that.
Okay. We do have a bit of special show. We got Dinah is the supervisor of 2 departments within your company.
Mm-hmm.
You do the hiring and the firing?
Yep.
Okay, so she's here to give you some pointers, just talk about the workplace, the job situation as far as, we don't have a lot of statistics, but right now everyone is hiring here in Ohio. So it just boils down to how do you get the job? And this is an area I have never researched either, which is why it's so hard for me to get a job. In my personal opinion, which Dinah is here to argue or to agree with, I think job interviews is just one big lie. The company lies about their problems and what's really going on, and the person interviewing lies about his capabilities and resume and experience, but hopefully I'm wrong. But that's just the way I see it. Every time I have a job interview and I get the job, I noticed that just about everything they said in the job interview was a complete lie. Do you have overtime? We have some. We have occasional some overtime, and then you get the job and you're working 6 days a week, 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
But Dinah has assured me she does not do that. So
I don't. When somebody comes in for a job interview, I give them worst case scenario. I tell them it's going to be dirty, it's going to be hot, you're going to work overtime. I said we're trying to hire people to get rid of the overtime. So no, I give them worst case scenario. I tell them, hey, if you don't think it's for you, I can walk you out to the front door. No harm, no foul. Rather than wasting time. But yes, I believe people you see the best of them at an interview.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can even get people to show up for an interview.
I was going to ask that. You've mentioned before that there's a lot of no-shows, and then people who do the interview say they want the job, and you never see them again.
Yes. I heard last year, 2021, because of the pandemic and all the unemployment, if you sent a resume to a company, that counted as looking for a job. Whereas pre-pandemic, if you were on unemployment, you had to go look for a job, fill out job applications, go for an interview. Well, I had heard now, since the pandemic, if you send a resume in, that's all you need to do. So you get all these resumes, and you call them for interviews, and they don't call back, or they'll schedule an interview and not show up. And we were lucky last week. We had 2 out of 3 interviews show up.
2 out of 3.
That's
Well, and I talked to somebody at another place looking to hire people, and they had their manager scheduled 9 interviews, and nobody showed up.
wow.
Is that a new trend, or is that an old trend? Or
Well,
is-
we never had to find that many people, so you can't really say. It's like we got so busy that we needed to hire like 100 people plant-wide, and it's everywhere. And now the new trend, now that we've hired about 50 or 60 people, and everybody comes through the temp service just because it's easier, because our human resource don't have time to do all the testing, background checks, and whatnot. So then you got to hire them in 2 months later, and last week we had 3 people fail their drug test.
Oh, jeez.
That's been going on forever.
Well,
Yeah.
I think they get a drug test at the temp service. Then when we hire them in 2 months later, they get another drug test.
And that's the one they fail.
Yep.
Different drug tests?
No, same one.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Well, I guess when it comes to people, you're always gonna have that.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, but let me ask you this: now I know one of your departments is very specialized, very specific.
Yes.
The other one is am I correct that it's a general?
Yes.
Anyone can
General labor.
do it. When someone interviews or puts in for that general position, what are the things you look for?
Why they left their last job?
That's important.
Yes. Because I've had people tell me, "Oh, I got fired for points." Well, I don't want somebody that just got fired for points, because we have a point system.
Yeah. Well, plus that's
Or-
that's the kind of truth you don't want to say in a job interview.
Or
I kicked my supervisor in the shins. That's something you want to leave out.
they'll put on their application reason, because one of the questions is reason for leaving, and they'll put, "We'll discuss in person."
Oh, that means there's an explanation involved.
Yes, I've had somebody put their last job was chaos, and there was a lot of backstabbing and people talking about each other, and I said, well, that sounds like a lot of departments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Everywhere
just
you
normal
go.
stuff. A lot of jobs, like we had one, and my boss, he told me, because I didn't look, I looked at the last couple jobs on the resume and it looked good. Well, so set up an interview with them. And then my boss looked at it, because I said, oh, I got this interview, and showed him the resume, and he noticed 13 jobs, one every year for the past 13 years.
Oh, wow.
And this guy was about my age, so, well, we brought him in through the temp service because we're kind of desperate, but not so desperate. First day, calls off. Oh, I forgot I had a doctor appointment. Well, kind of suspicious, but okay. Second day, don't call. And then he says, oh, well, I don't have a car and my ride bailed on me. So always important, and I forget. One of the questions we're supposed to ask is, do you have reliable transportation?
I get that
You
one
can't
a lot.
ask them if you got a car, because somehow they can say that's discrimination. But you're allowed to ask if they have reliable.
Discrimination?
Well, plus let's be
Yeah.
honest. As long as they get to work, who cares how?
Well, because then you bring people in from the temp, and, oh, I got a buddy, and we have a referral bonus, so you bring them in. Well, one of them failed the drug test, so now the other guy don't have a ride to work either. So it's like a two.
Hey, there's
You
always
lose-
Uber.
Yeah.
You lose a twofer, and we're nowhere close to a bus line.
Oh, jeez.
So
Yeah, that's true.
When I worked up in Akron, I worked with a guy who Ubered every day to and fro work,
remember
and
that.
we worked in Akron up by 71, no, by 76. I'm sorry, It was right off of 76, and he lived in south end of Canton. So that was a damn... But he was there. Excuse me. He was there every day. So, I mean, he found a way to get there. We made fun of behind his back, the honorable way to do it. If you're going to make fun of someone, you don't do it to their face.
Don't do it to their face.
You end up getting slapped. You have to do it cowardly-like behind their back. We would often ask each other, is there any part of his paycheck that he gets to keep? But the point is, he got there.
Hey, he showed up, right?
Every day. Where I work now, there's a gentleman whose license is suspended, and him and his roommate work, and they just come together. Ooh, they arrive at the plant together. Let me correct that. I don't know about the other one, but so yeah, I understand that. I get asked every time, do I have reliable transportation?
Yeah, the one time I forgot to ask that.
What else do you look for as far as like skills, if any?
Well, the type of work we do, if you're mechanically inclined, if you've done that type of work before, if you know how to use any sort of tools or specialized equipment.
That's a bonus, but not a job killer.
Right.
Okay.
Because we can always train you. Most people can learn. I can't. I've tried it. I can't do it, but...
I'm sorry.
Well, I tried it once. We had to throw away the part. But I only tried once. But
I tried it once. We had to just walk away. It was so bad. We just had to walk away from it.
So you work with people, and usually you can tell if, like, I interviewed somebody, and they had the deer in the headlight look the whole time, like they were scared to death. But oh yeah, I think I do good here, and so that's when you tell them, well, we're gonna do a few more interviews. I'll let you know. Well, they look scared to death.
Yeah.
You can just tell. If you bring them in and showing them around, like the last girl, and she's supposed to start on the 21st, and she was asked all the good questions, real interested, seemed to know about the stuff, and things looked familiar to her. So bring her in, assuming she shows up.
Yeah. Now, since you hire through a temp service, does that give your company a chance to kind of feel them out for a couple of months before, or is it just no? Once you're through the door, if you don't quit or walk out, or
no, when you're in through the temp service, if the temp service will also send us people. If they send us people, we keep them on as a temp for 2 months. We also have job listings on Indeed, ManCan, Ohio Means Jobs. If they come in through there, we send them to the temp service to do their background check, and then we can actually hire them in after a month. Okay. So while they're a temp, at any point you can just say canceled. You don't have to give a reason.
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
And then after you get hired in, we have a 30-day probation. They changed everything from 3 months to 30 days. So you get insurance and everything after 30. And during that first 30 days, it's at will. We can just let you go.
Okay, I had another question. I thought about it a second ago, and then it just disappeared.
It never happens.
Oh, my God. Okay, I'm going to run a scenario past you, and then you let me know what you think.
God, I didn't know I was having a test.
Yes, this is a test. There will be a written test and a verbal test.
Oh, I'm really good at testing.
Yeah, because I suck. See, he's going to be giving you the written test because I'll fuck it up. All right.
Right.
I had a job interview at a company. I think I mentioned this before in the podcast. And I had 2 phone interviews, and I thought that's where we got through most of the basic questions. Have you done this kind of work before? Do you have reliable transportation? Your resume. We went over things like that. And then the last interview was I go in person and meet the HR guy and the management dude that was manager of the department I was trying to get into. And I was pretty excited. And I went in there, and we sat down and started talking. It was pretty normal for a minute. And then they started asking what I call is psychology questions. Questions that you get off these websites that help employers. I hate these websites. I wish I could remember the question, but it was over a year ago. And it was something along the lines of this. It's something along the lines of, if you have A and B employees and they're fighting, and they get into an altercation. They had to be ultra professional because a flat out fist fight's easy, right? You just stop the fight and kick them both out. But this was an altercation. What's the best thing to do? And I hate those kind of questions because it seems to me that the only people who would know how to properly answer those questions is people who prepared in that way. And that doesn't necessarily get you the best employee or a coworker in my case. You know, because to me, the way I see it, the best employees are the guys who are broke as shit. They have no money, they got bills. Those are the guys who are going to show up because they can't afford to not show up.
If they get a ride.
That's true, if they can get there. God, you just wiped my head clean. Damn it.
All right, so they're asking you these questions.
Yeah, they're using what I call websites to like ask you, and your answers gives them a better profile of whether you're a good employee or not. And I'm sorry to interrupt. And Seemed is how every job I've ever gotten, my employers like me, as far as my work ethic. They don't like the fact that I complain, but who cares about that? You know, none of the employees, except for like maybe a couple, wanted to see me go. However, these companies, and so what I did when this really happened, once they started asking those questions, I already had another job interview the next week. So I just kind of interrupted them, say, I'm sorry, guys, I don't do psychology questions, and the fact that you're asking these questions really puts up a red flag. I got the deer in the headlights look from both of them because I'm the first one who ever just stood up and left. And I said, thanks for your time, but I can't work for a company. I think what came out was different, but what I wanted to say is I'm not going to work for a company that the HR department has no idea how to read a person. Because if that's the case, no wonder you got the revolving door and you can't keep employees. But what are those coworkers going to be like? You know, what am I walking into? See, when I go to a job interview myself, I don't care what they're looking at. I'll answer the questions honestly, which is usually why I blow the job interview. But at the same time, I'm only there to see what they're like. And either I suck at detecting when they're lying to me or when they're just painting a perfect picture, or I'm pretty good at it. And that's when they started asking those questions, I felt that the job interview was over. And, at this point, they're just using some website to determine whether I'm a good employee instead of giving me like that's why I like the 30-day kind of trial. Get this guy in here, see how much complaining he does, see what his work ethic is. And of course, the flip side is anybody can work hard for 30 days. So what do you think of that?
I think when I became supervisor, they gave me a computerized test like that. But I already been at the company 10 years. Yeah. And that was more supervision. So I don't see how that goes for what an employee is going to be like. I mean, anything like that, we tell them, you go find a supervisor. I mean, we had a fight in the lunchroom, and a supervisor got written up because he literally walked out without doing anything. I mean, he was new. Yeah. He got hired in as a supervisor. He'd only been there maybe a month, and he's just sitting in the lunchroom, and these two people literally start getting in a fight, and he walked out the door. Wow. And all of a sudden, everybody's paging supervisor to the lunchroom and all this. So that's more supervision. The only thing I ever do, we have a math test because we have to count and do math. So I give a math test. But
so you disagree with using the psychology website?
No, that's more supervision after somebody's already been there, and you want to see how, they're gonna. You want to see how they're gonna handle the fight. But somebody coming in the door from day one. You don't know anything about anything, let alone trying to break up a fight.
I'm not 100% that was the question, but I just remember all I remember was thinking to myself, oh my God, that's a psychology question.
Well, if anybody ever goes anywhere for a job and they start asking you questions, well, what would you do? You say, I'd go find a supervisor. Because as an employee, hourly person that's just there to do your labor and go home, you shouldn't have to be responsible for breaking up fights. I mean, if somebody's in danger or pulls a gun, you could do something.
Maybe that's where I went wrong. Usually I'm the guy that tries to break it up. And the company's like, no, you could get hurt. Now you got 3 employees that are involved. Yeah. And so, okay, well, there you go.
Yeah, our basic, anything you see, you go find a supervisor.
You just let them duke it out and get a supervisor.
Well, I mean, because I'm not going to go step
between two dudes. Yeah. Okay.
Gonna go get
Yeah,
the
that would be
mail
dangerous.
supervisor that ran out earlier.
Have you ever run into that psychology question in job interviews?
Oh, all the time. They want you to give the right answer too. They want you to feed the ego to them. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, that's all right. Take your time. I don't either.
Well, I wonder if that's a new thing then, because honestly,
It's not new. Because I remember the first time I ran into those type of questions was back when we first met. So we're talking like 2000 and stuff like that.
well, that's what I was gonna say. Because when I started my job, I never got interviewed. I went in through the temp service, and so
I think that's the way to do it. Honestly, my personal opinion. If I had a company like the company I work for, they go through Imperial, and I think it's brilliant. I think it's good. Let me put it this way: when I got, with the exception of my last job, even the one before when I worked for the repo company, I got that job through a temp service. It is so much less stressful for me to just go to a temp service, say, this is my resume, find me something. Mm-hmm. And these people are used to working. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm saying it anyways. These temp services are used to working with people who have bad job reputations or maybe drugs. They're used to working with people who barely want to work. And then so you don't really have to interview a lot of times. You just throw them the resume and say, find me something. Well, we have this and this and this and this, and then you pick one. And as long as you're working for the temp service, all I have to do is call them up. For example, I got a job at Freshmark, which is a company that has like meat. What's that, meat processing?
Yes.
Packaging. Yes, meat packaging. And the job was actually very easy. You go into this refrigerator and you sort out the meat, and then that's it. You sort it out like bacon to get cooked and chopped up for pre-cooked frozen bacon. The problem was, as soon as I got into the cold atmosphere, my nose started running and it wouldn't quit. So I called the temp service later that day and I said, look, man, I can't do this. My nose is running. I'm running snot all over people's food. And that's it. The next day I had a different job. I didn't have to go talk to HR. I didn't have to do any job interviews. And it was a well-paying job. So personally, I like going to temp services. It eliminates at least half of the BS. Now, with the exception of this new job, I was already working at the temp service, and I figured I had time, so I'll send resumes, and I got a lot of hits. But the point is that I think going to a temp service is perfectly fine. You don't get benefits, but you can test out the company just as much as they're testing you out. And I agree with it. I know some people don't like temp services because they're kind of shady and you don't get no benefits and blah, blah, blah. But to me, it just seems like a no-brainer.
And it depends on which temp service
you get. Yes, you're right. It depends on the company, the temp service, where it's located, its usual clientele.
Well, yeah, but I went to a temp service when I quit my job when my boss was having an affair with my assistant.
Nice.
So I just kind of walked in one day, gave him my key, said, here, you can have it. And side note, they've both been fired from the company. Anyway.
What comes around goes around.
So I took a week off and I called the temp service because I didn't know. I mean, I had worked there 15 years. So, wow. And before that, I worked at college on the campus through work study. So going on interviews, no, the one job where I walked out, I did an interview there and it was the same as what I was doing on the campus. But then I called the temp service and said, put me on a factory on midnight shift away from people because I didn't want to see anybody. And lo and behold, that was 20 and a half years ago. So not everybody with bad job history or whatever goes through the temp.
Right. Yeah, I'll say that as well. There was a time, I'm only telling you this because I'm trying to paint a picture. There was a time when it seemed like every 3 years I was getting a new job. Now, the one job went out of business. The other job had a really horrible plant manager, and for some reason, he was firing everybody, and he just signaled me out, and I'm like, okay. The good news is after he fired me, he got fired. And then I went to another company, I can't remember what, and then I decided to start my own business. So it seemed like every company I worked for a minute there was only 3 years is all I was getting out of them, and then I would just move on. And I was afraid that would make me look bad. What would you think about someone who, like, say, had 3 jobs in a row, 3 years?
A lot of it depends on age, and you can't ask age. Usually a lot of people on their resume will put what year they got a diploma, so you can kind of do the math.
Yeah.
And I know 20-some-year-olds now, they're switching jobs quite a bit, just kind of finding their way. But like I said, that guy, he was about my age and had 13 jobs, 1 job a year.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
ridiculous.
that a lot of times I won't even interview.
Yeah.
And it looks bad. And if you have big gaps, and actually we just had a resume from somebody and they put, well, they were laid off, their company had went out of business, and I mean, they said, well, I feel I have to explain this gap on my resume that, you know, they were on unemployment, didn't say if they were looking or not, but so now you have those gaps.
Yeah.
Oh, and how many years ago was it? There was the big unemployment thing where there was some tax credit and you could get extra unemployment, and it went for like 7 years.
Oh, I don't remember
And
that.
it ended about 4 years ago, and we just got flooded with people applying because that unemployment just was gone.
I wonder if that was an Obama thing.
I think it was.
Wow.
Yeah, because you said it ended 4 years ago. That sounds like a Trump thing.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad, so don't hold me to. I know.
Yeah, but that people had big gaps then. They had
Yeah.
been off work 2, 3, 4 years.
Now, I know when I had my own business and it didn't make a single gosh damn dime, when I got a call from a friend of mine, and he's like, I'm working at this company. I make really good money. And I told him about you. You should come and apply. And that is what made me decide to go ahead and fold the business and go back to work. And I remember telling them in the interview, I said, they said, well, you haven't worked in like 8 years. I said, yeah, I tried my own business. And they acted like they were impressed. I remember the one guy said, well, you gave it 8 years. That's a hell of a run. You're not a quitter.
That's
And
true.
so I guess, and I had nothing to prove. I remember showing, I did go into your business and talk to your boss. They wanted, I had a video and audio production company, and they wanted instructional videos made. And I put together kind of a crap-ass portfolio for them. I don't even think they watched it. But I had nothing to prove to these guys at the job interview that this company existed, and I could have just been soaking up, unemployment that whole time. Is there a way they could have known that?
Well, they could have checked out the website. I mean, or even Googled the production company. Something would have
Well,
showed
if you
out.
Googled it, you wouldn't have got anything. I mean,
Well, plus, they knew you come into my company. They knew. I mean, I'm sure
I'm
they'd-
talking about the interview where they asked me about the 8-year gap. So I guess my point is, since they didn't really know, they didn't check, they took me for my word. If you have big gaps on your resume, just tell them you tried to start your own business. I had a job, had an opportunity. I decided to chase it down. It didn't pan out.
Yeah, but you would add a lot of examples. You had stuff you had made.
Over 8 years, yes, I should
Yeah.
have some examples, yes. I do remember one of my videos got attention here in Stark County. It was on Channel 5 News.
Oh, that's right.
I really don't remember enough to go into it. I don't even think it's on YouTube anymore because it had copyrighted Channel 5 News stuff in it. But a friend of mine had a rough time with a trailer park he was living in, and I decided to make a video and put it up, and then it got the attention of Channel 5 News, and they made a story out of it.
Cool.
That was one thing
was.
I accomplished. I had one customer in the 8 years. My Aunt Karen had some VHS-C she wanted converted to DVD. That was a $500 bill. She paid well, and I did my best to make it the best looking footage. It was so funny. This is so typical of me. She's my first customer in like 6 years, 7 years. So I'm like, yes. So I did all the work, and I did like 14-hour days because I was just excited, did it all. And then this is where I get ridiculous, and you guys are going to laugh. So I got all of her stuff together and all of her DVDs, and I took a regular post office box, and I spray painted it pitch black. And then I wrote MC Productions on the side of the box, and then I packed it. Then I remember spritzing some cologne in the package, so when they opened it, it would be a pleasant. I'm thinking to myself, I was laughing and doing this at the same time, and I packed it up and sent it. And they never said, "Ooh, your package smelled nice." But I'm thinking to myself, I am such a jackass.
You don't hear that every day either.
That was my one and only customer. So,
Relatives got your back.
huh?
Relatives have your back.
Well, not really. I had another relative for 4.5 years. I'm going to call you. I want you to do something for me. Never did. To this day, never did a thing. So, yeah, relatives don't pay the bills. But anyways, trying to think if there's anything else we want to talk about.
When you're interviewing people, Dinah, like, do you have a written list of questions that are all the same that you ask everybody?
Yeah, I don't go off it, but our human resource lady had sent a whole list of things you can ask, things you can't ask, how to ask something, so they can't claim discrimination. Like, you ask, what hours are you available to work? Are there any hours you can't work? You have to make accommodations if they say they can't work a Sunday for religious. We had one guy Jewish and he couldn't work a Friday, so we adjusted his schedule. So yeah, I have a list. I don't go by it. I just kind of wing it.
And do you guys, when you're interviewing, do you give them chances to ask you questions?
Oh yeah, your best word is, what questions do you have for me? If you ask somebody, oh, do you have any questions? They can say no. But if you ask them, what questions do you have, they're more likely to ask questions.
Let me ask you this in your personal opinion. I read once when this one website was saying that when you go to job interviews, have questions, because that's like...
Oh, yeah.
So if someone asks you questions, what does that tell you? That they're paying more attention, or...
They're serious.
Oh, okay.
They're more serious.
Probably.
So have some questions ready?
Yeah, unless, like, when they were interviewing for my boss's position, they were ready to offer this person a job. And they said, their question was, well, how many sick days do I get?
That was their question.
How often do I don't have to be here?
So
how many golf games?
That's not one thing. Now, I'm trying to think. The last girl, and I interviewed her it's been about 2 weeks ago, because she was going to put in a notice. But she had serious questions. Oh, because she was on a weekend shift and she's going to go to our weekend shift, and she was trying to compare, because they're discontinuing hers, because you get a premium pay, and how they figure hours for vacation, and how much can you work around overtime, because we're really flexible. So as long as you come in the door and do your job, we're willing to work a lot with days, hours. You could say day shift, but it could be a afternoon shift if you need, for daycare, whatever.
Okay. Don't you have some things prepared from a website, Adam?
Yeah, I have a list of
You've
questions
been
that are very very general questions that people would usually ask at an interview. But she's covered most of them. I mean, really.
Well, why don't you go ahead and tell us what that website says, and then if you have any commentary.
It's Indeed.com, actually. It's right from them, right from the bird's mouth.
What is it?
Indeed.
Indeed, okay.
Yeah, like, can you explain gaps in your resume? You covered that when you were talking about it. Are you willing to travel? That's probably not.
It's on our application.
Is it?
We've never, unless you're in the sales department, we don't travel.
Right. Or are you overqualified for this role?
Well, no, I can read that off a resume.
Yeah, I can tell for that. Would you be willing to work nights and weekends? You just covered that. Qualities. What qualities make a good leader? That's a question that says they ask. Yes, that one?
No.
What is the name of our CEO?
What was that one?
What is the name of our CEO? They'd have to do some
what,
research.
Indeed, or the company they're applying to?
Of the company you're applying to.
And that's one thing, because we do have a very nice website. And that's one of the first things I ask people, because, just kind of break the ice. Hi, I'm Dinah. How you doing? And so I'll say, well, what do you know about our company? And a lot of people actually have said, oh, well, just what I learned on the website. They'll look at the website and get a little bit of what we do.
Yeah, that's one of the best ways to learn about a company first. Especially if you have a good website. And sometimes you get on the websites and they don't have anything on there except, oh, yeah, we're a company that makes this, and that's it.
Yeah, because you can actually apply for a job through our website.
Oh, nice. That's good.
Maybe we should do that.
Why are you the right person for the job? Is that one you
Yeah,
ask
that's...
a lot? Yeah.
Yeah,
what kind of answers are you looking for when they say that, when you ask them that?
Oh, I never thought of that. You asking them.
You usually get the same thing. They'll say, oh, I'm a good team player. I'm a hard worker, fast learner. They asked me that actually at the job where I worked 15 years, where my boss had an affair with the assistant. That really threw me, because I was young. I had just went to college for a couple years and then moved back here and just looking for a job. And that was one of the questions. He said, why should I hire you? And I think that's what I said. I said, well, I had experience doing this job. And kind of throws you off. But if you say, "Oh, I don't know,"
I don't think anybody would say I don't know. I think they would try to struggle to. Well, I'm a really hard. And if they say the average, what's the word I'm looking for? If they would struggle with that question and give you all the stuff they think you want to hear, can you detect that?
Yeah, you can usually tell if somebody's lying.
Is that something?
They get the deer in the headlights look,
Yeah.
or they'll be looking around. They won't make eye contact with you.
Yeah. That's actually a question I think I would answer pretty easily because I kind of screen where I put in applications. Like with the temp service, when they said, "Do you want to work at Skipco?" That's a name I've heard for decades. And I'm like, "Oh, I like cars, and it's an auto auction. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool." I didn't have to interview for that job, but if they were to ask me that question, I'd be like, "Hey, man, I learn pretty quick. I show up every day, and I just love cars. I love this kind of industry." They did ask me that question at my new job, and I told them, I said, "I've worked warehouse work before. I'm really good driving the machines. I've never had an accident in the 4 years that I've done this previous." And I really enjoy this kind of work. I got a good work ethic and blah blah blah. And I think it must have been enough.
Well, yeah, you kind of get an idea of somebody just the way they talk. If you're not hesitant like you just did, you're confident, so you're not making it up as you go.
Right.
Even though I was making it up as I go.
Well, yeah.
You made it up before and you remembered it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's what it is. Yeah. It does give you confidence and you know how to answer something.
In your opinion, do you think the job interview process is flawed in any way? Or should people just kind of come up with their own way of doing it?
I don't know if there is an interview process.
Okay.
I think everybody does it different. Every company will kind of guide you how to do it different, but I think every person, I'm sure other supervisors at my company don't interview the same way.
Well, I guess my question was...
And especially it's where are you interviewing for? That's going to make a difference how you interview. But yes, people are on their best behavior. Yes, they'll lie. Companies, they may. I mean, they probably do. Yeah. I just know we don't. I try to paint worst case scenario because I don't want to go through all the trouble of bringing somebody in and then a week later they hate it.
Yeah.
I pretty much tell them, this is the worst it's going to be. Here, lift this. You want to lift these all day?
That would be
You want to do this all day?
Other interviewers should take a hint from, because that sounds like a good idea to do that.
Well, yeah, because I say, here's the worst you're going to see.
Yeah.
You're going to be dirty. You're going to be hot in the summer, but we have popsicles and fans and free water,
Now, do you have questions about pay?
Oh, well...
Is that something
on the website when the jobs are posted, they post the wage. If they're coming in through the temp service, we tell the temp service what jobs we need, what the pay is, what the shift differential is, and all that. But we'll talk about raises, how to get raises, how often you get them, how much you get.
Yeah, money is... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can you tell when someone comes in for an interview, like right away, that they're probably not going to be a good
yes.
fit?
Yeah, that's when you say,
Before
well,
they
I'm
even
doing
say
more.
Anything?
Yeah.
What kind of clues give you the...
Whether they haven't bathed in a week.
I'm sure that one would be pretty bad.
If they're wearing a fuck you t-shirt.
Whoa, I'll call you back next week.
Please don't stand by an open flame.
Well, first impressions do make a difference.
Yeah.
And I mean, where I work, it's dirty atmosphere. And it's probably, well, we didn't say any names, but when they come in with asthma or they can't hardly breathe, they're not gonna. I had one.
Well, that's the type of industry, though, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I had one person, and we lift. One of our essential job functions is you have to lift 40 pounds frequently all day long, okay?
Yeah.
And she came in and she said she had quit her last job at a nursing home because it was killing her body helping turn patients in bed or help them get out of the... So, no.
That's a red flag.
Yeah, that's not going to work for our... And even though I give her the paper and it says she's got to do all this lifting and bending and moving and walking, I can do that. But, okay, well, we're on some other interviews. I'll be in touch if there's further interest.
Have you ever been forced to hire someone just because nobody else interviewed?
No, I won't do that.
Oh, okay.
We had for the specialized job, I had nobody sign up at work. on the job listing. Nothing came in through Indeed. About a month afterwards, I had another supervisor say, oh, well, there's somebody on third shift that didn't sign up. Is it too late? So I interviewed them, and I knew there was no way. So I said, all right, well, I'll let you know. We'll be doing some more interviews. She still works there at the other department, but yeah, there was no way.
Now, has there ever been an interview where they asked you a question and that question right there ended it and you were done? You were like, no, not hiring you, this person.
No, I can't think of any of that.
Nothing's that serious.
That's good.
Except maybe, well, I had a problem with drugs, but I'm trying to quit. That may end it.
Well, it depends on if they passed their drug test and how long ago it was.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you guys ask them straight out? Have you done drugs or?
Well, no, they get a drug test at the temp service.
Yeah.
So if the temp sends them, they're clean for that day. And if not, well, then that'll be the time when we say, okay, interview goes good, and we go up to the secretary and they set up an interview or a time to go to the temp service,
Right.
and they don't show up. So then we assume it's drugs.
Do you think the problems you guys have with that is like everyone's having that problem? People who schedule an interview and don't show up. People who do the interview, say they want the job, and then you never see them again.
Yeah, because of the last people I've known that have failed drug tests, it's all been marijuana. It's not opioids or heroin. It's all been marijuana.
Wow.
And now, it's legal in Ohio, but still.
Well, not really. Not just to consume whatever you want.
Yeah, but in some states it are. And I think people don't consider marijuana a drug.
I don't, but I also agree that private companies are allowed to have whatever rules they want.
Right.
Right.
I think that's just one of the, if you like your freedom, you got to give it.
Well, yeah, because they put in our policy book years ago that if it was ever legal in Ohio, it would not be legal at our company.
And I wouldn't want it to be, since you guys are pouring molten steel.
Yeah, not that we're saying where I work.
Working with machines.
Well, no, we're not saying the name, but you do work. There is
and
a
with
department.
sharp objects.
Yeah. Like where I work, people are driving 5,000-pound forklifts.
Yeah.
I don't want someone all baked out and, driving into the racks.
Yeah, but I think it's just people think marijuana right up there with beer, like recreational.
I'm
not
one
a
of
big
them.
deal.
I'm one of them. However, you shouldn't be drinking on the job either.
Yes, but as somebody actually just brought it up, we were talking about this at work. If somebody has a beer Friday night after work and they get a drug test Monday morning, they're clean.
That's true.
If somebody smokes a joint Friday night, they're not going to be clean for 30 days.
Yes, that's true. That's just the downside of it, is marijuana stays in your system way longer.
Yeah, I guess the whole point was they talk about the opioid crisis and all that. Everybody that I've seen got failed drug tests was always marijuana. It wasn't heroin or. So I think that's why. I think people are just not taking marijuana as a drug. Or they're thinking that way, like, it's no big deal.
It's for my nerves.
That's not an issue,
Which that very well may be. Well,
I had really one say, well, they couldn't sleep without it. I recommend it's equal. Hey, it was serious. They got fired.
Yeah, I do know people who take that CBD oil.
I think that would probably.
I don't know how that works. I don't know if it shows up as marijuana or not. But
I don't either.
I know she does take it to help her sleep.
You would think it would.
And since it doesn't get you stoned, it's a good argument. I don't, do marijuana to get high. I take this marijuana-like thing to help me sleep. I don't know. It's weird. I just thank God I don't have that problem. Seeing as how I slept 14 hours just this morning.
I know.
Weekends are great, right? Weekends are great.
Yeah. Sleep away.
Yeah. All right. I found a list of, these are supposedly the top 10 questions that interviewers ask. And I'm just curious if you ask them and what you're looking for is an answer from them.
You could say, that's good, that's BS.
The first one is, tell me about yourself.
Yeah, I always do that.
I hate that question.
What are you looking for as an answer as far as...
Well, usually, because actually I'm still going back to that girl. She said, oh, do you want to know about me work or personal? And I said, work, tell me where you've worked, what you like about the job, what you didn't like about the job, the people, stuff like that.
See, I'm sorry to interrupt. I thought that question was geared towards who you were as a person.
Well, you get that a little bit just as you're talking to them, but, I don't want to hear about, oh, I got 3 kids at home and an ex-husband that's a piece of shit, and I don't want to hear all about that right away,
Yeah. I'll hear it slowly as you work.
But she's the first one that ever asked me, because usually when I say, well, tell me about yourself, they talk about where they worked last and how it was. And
you're looking to tie the answer to the work experience mostly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And just fill in the blanks. I mean, an application doesn't have a lot on it. Resumes are short and sweet, to the point.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing. The last time I did a resume was in the 90s, and all I've done is added to it. What do you look for? When you look at a resume, what's the criteria you're looking for?
I want it short and sweet. I told you that. You put way too much information. You want bullet points. You want to say, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. Because I'll tell you what, somebody, they will write stories and they've got misspellings, they got bad grammar, and I don't care about what you did at the cash register. I mean, this one was like, it was like a whole story. It was worse than yours before I fixed it up. But they should be something that I can look at real quick and see, okay, I'm working here now. Because most of them always say present, because they haven't updated them. And they'll list a few things of what they did and just short and to the point. More like bullet points rather than whole sentences.
Are you looking just to see what kind of work they've done, or whether they've progressed within the company, or both?
Well, I've only had one person, and he didn't show up for his interview. Last Wednesday, he was the 1 out of 3 that didn't show up. He listed every job, and he listed it started January 1st, ended December 31st. And I'm like, that's crazy, because there was like 5 of them. Well, then when I read closer, he had changed jobs within the same company, and he listed every one as a different job. And I'm like, he worked there for a year, and then here for a year, and because I look at dates to see for gaps, and then I looked at it, and he had actually moved up, and his last job was account manager.
Do you agree with that, though, putting on the resume that you changed departments within the company?
Well, yeah, but I would only list it once, because he could have put then that he had actually been there 13 years rather than listing 10 different jobs.
See, that happens to me a lot. Even with the exception of the company I work at now, because I've only been there a year, I always end up starting out at a place, and then they put me in different places where they need me. So I always end up like you start at, let's say it's Skipco. I started out in the wash department. Then they moved me to a detailer, which is like a step up. And then I got into Source One, which is the same company, same pair of pants, different pocket. And so I would have 3 different jobs within it. Would you recommend that I put that there, or just the last one I ended up?
No, I would put them all. Yeah, I would just list like Skipco and then say I did blah, 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 and blah.
Okay.
Yeah, not list each. Because I didn't notice till I went back and read it that it was the same company, listed 5 times.
Yeah, so he just wrote it out kind of wrong, so to speak.
Yeah.
He did it to fill it, to make it look like it was bigger than or more than it was.
Well, yeah, but really, if you go, it used to be that you only had to put your last jobs like for the last 10 years.
Right.
So he had been there 10 years. I just hired a girl now, and she had worked her last job 13 years. And the only thing she had on her resume, she had switched locations within the same company, and she put each location down.
Huh. I guess if that's what you got, if you've only done the one place, you can kind of do that. I can see getting away with that. Okay, I'm going back to the list. Sorry. Why are you the best person for the job? Is that something you ask?
It's kind of like, why should I hire you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Why should I waste my time?
Yeah, a lot of people come in and they don't really know what at first they don't, until you give them the job description to read, they don't know 100% what they're getting into.
Why do you want the job?
Yeah, or I'll put like, why do you want to leave where you are now?
Yeah, that's
if they're still working somewhere.
I get that one a lot.
Yeah, it says, why are you leaving or left?
I was told from a website, not to interrupt, real quick, that just I want to better myself. I want to higher pay, and I'm looking to move up in the world. Is that an acceptable answer?
Well, yeah, you can't argue. I mean, why do you go to work?
Yeah.
For money.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
And why do you leave someplace? More money. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And now, if you get answers like I didn't get along with the last supervisor I had,
Yeah, then that raises a red flag.
do you actually look into it and call the companies?
No, because a company cannot tell you anything except verify, yes, they worked here and these are the dates.
Oh.
Because anybody says anything bad about you and you can go sue them for libel.
Oh.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Nobody can even get past our human resource because I don't have the dates of when people started.
Wow.
I cannot give references on any old employees.
These two tie together. What's your greatest strength and what's your greatest weakness?
Yeah.
You ask those, I'm sure.
Yeah, and there's usually listed on their resume, they'll put skills that are applicable.
Just out of curiosity, when you ask somebody what their weakness is, what kind of answers do you get?
Food.
Yeah, actually, I've never asked anybody what their weaknesses are.
Stupid questions.
They've asked me that, and I have to put it. I have to put that on our employees' quarterly reviews.
Okay.
I have to list areas for improvement, we call it.
Yeah, I understand that. How do you handle stress and pressure?
Nah, I don't
No?
ask. Nah.
What
That's
are your
something
I just tell them there's going to be a lot of it at the end of the month.
Yeah, do you ask them how do they handle stress at all?
No.
You don't bring it up? And
No, that's for
So,
the
'cause, like,
wellness
okay,
committee. We have wellness meetings.
Here's a tennis ball.
you have a separate department for some of these things. Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
what you mean?
Yeah.
For mental health or
Yes,
whatever.
health advocate it's called.
Interesting.
It's a free service provided by our company through our insurance.
Nice.
I've used them many times to help sort out the.
I've used it so many times.
They help sort out bills even, and
Oh,
I could
wow.
even give that number to my in-laws if they need help with any Medicare filing for Medicare or signing up and all that
That's
stuff.
a pretty nice
Yeah, and they
service.
do the regular. They'll help you with mental health stuff, but they'll also help you with if you're in deep shit debt wise. They'll
Now you-
help you make a plan.
You covered this. You already said you list what the pay is and stuff on the applications or on the website. I mean,
Yeah.
but have you did they always do that, or is that something they only done recently? as far
No,
as
we've
put up the
always
pay?
done that. Yeah, because we used to exclusively get employees through the temp service.
Okay.
We wouldn't advertise much on Indeed, and so the temp service always had our pay ranges for what position we were looking for.
Do you ever? Okay, the last one. What are your career goals, or like, where do you see yourself?
Well, they
in
all
so
put that
many
on the
years?
resume. Their first line is, to use my skills to better myself and help the company. Yeah.
They pretty generic answer. then.
Yes.
Nobody's ever come in and said, "Well, I want your job."
No. No.
Do
nobody
you
wants.
ask them how long they've been they were at their last job without looking at the resume?
Well,
You
I always
if
see
they
all that
explain it?
beforehand.
Oh, okay.
Well, yes, I look at that beforehand, and then I'll ask them,
Okay.
why'd you leave? What'd you do? Why is there a 2-year gap in between here? And,
What's the worst answer you ever got?
oh, I was just looking for a job, or
Just kind of
Yeah.
a lazy answer.
yeah, yeah.
And the way they dress matter.
No, I
'Cause
don't
you guys
care.
are. I know you're in a kind of a factory environment
Yeah.
type thing.
I actually worry more when women come in all dressed up
Yeah.
in heels. And now I did have one girl that's my lead person, but she worked at a office and
Okay.
she came before work and she had a dress on.
Uh,
But I don't see anything wrong with that. But the work that we do, I kind of worry if a woman comes in dressed up.
yeah.
That
Maybe they don't know what they're getting
They don't
themselves
have
into.
an
Yes.
idea what you're doing there.
yeah, and I haven't had anybody come in really in raggedy clothes
Okay.
or dirty,
Yeah.
but I don't care if they come in like we're dressed.
Jeans and t-shirts.
Yeah.
That's cool. I've always heard they give people the advice to dress nice for an interview.
I
and I'm
always
like,
did.
yeah, you want to dress a little nice, but casually. You don't necessarily want to be in a suit.
I always wore a dress to an interview.
Yeah, I mean,
I
don't
don't know. It's a different generation now too.
Yeah.
and plus, I think a lot of the advice in these websites go to people that are going to office jobs.
Yes.
They don't think about other types
Yes,
of work.
it's never hurts to dress decently, even if it's just nice pants and a top. If you don't want to wear jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah. How many people have you hired in the last year or so? 2 years. What?
Yeah.
With the pandemic and everything going on.
Yeah, well, 2020 we laid people off, so there was no hiring then. Towards the end,
because of the pandemic?
yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because all the orders just canceled. 2021, when it got busy, we called everybody back, and most everybody came. A few people didn't. And then we started looking to hire 100 people, but how many have I hired? Because there's been so many that have lasted a week, or I hire them and they don't show up for the first day, or the worst, don't call off your first day.
Yeah.
That's a bad.
The last time before the pandemic, when people did that, there was not a day two.
Yeah.
I canceled them right away. I said, if you can't come the first day, then forget it.
Is there any exceptions? Like, what if they come in with a doctor's excuse and say just bad timing?
Well, the one called off because she was in the emergency room with an asthma attack.
Okay.
I said, well, you're not going to work out there on the floor.
Oh.
So
it wasn't the fact that she called off. It was the
yes.
fact that she has asthma.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I've probably made an exception, but it's got to be good.
Yeah. This has been interesting.
Well, we got 5 minutes left. Anybody want to say anything in closing?
No.
Well, we knew you weren't going to say nothing. Any last minute advice you want to give somebody who's looking to, especially like the young kids, 20-year-olds and such?
Yeah, go to the job interview. Try to wear clean clothes. Doesn't necessarily have to be dress clothes. And if you don't like the job, just tell them, hey, I don't think I'd be a good fit with this company.
Or get up and walk out like I did.
Well, no, that ain't the
kinda
best
rude.
because you might change. But I mean,
that ruins your chance to ever go back.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
don't
does.
lie and say, oh, I'd love it here. Oh, yeah, I can do that.
And as soon as you walk out the door, fuck this place.
I
Oh,
know.
my God.
Yeah, don't make the secretaries make a big deal of setting it up. I mean, do you know how much time? First, the secretary sets an appointment to go to the temp service. Then, okay, say you do go to the temp service and you pass everything. And so they send an email to Human Resource, and Human Resources sends out an email to me and payroll. And then they put you in payroll. And then they make you a time card. And now we have key fobs because the doors are locked from the outside. So they set all this stuff up. And I go to work early so I can meet you at the front door. And then you just don't show up. So, I mean, it's hours of work wasted. So, just be honest. If you go to some place and you think, oh, my God, I can't do this, just tell the person. Just say, hey,
you're not on the
this
hook
is
for
not
anything.
for me. Yeah. You're not out anything. You're not wasting their time, and they'll probably appreciate the honesty.
Yep.
Oh,
I
there you
agree
go.
with that.
I don't know. Everything I have to offer is just my personal experiences, and I'm not all that good at getting jobs. I get jobs, but like I said, I kind of bomb interviews. I always just answer things honestly, and a lot of times that's not what they're looking for. So,
Well, you feel that way, but
say what?
haven't they got you jobs at doing that?
Not really. The only jobs that I got after interviewing for it was the one in Akron. But, Dave had a lot to do with that. My friend who already worked there talked me up a lot. And then the last one I have to work at now. Everything else for the past, I don't know how long I've gotten through temp services. And I've only had 2 jobs prior to that outside of in 2000. Yeah, in the 90s, I graduated in 93. My dad got me my first job. And then my best friend, my school best friend, what do you call him? My best friend when I was in high school, his mom got me the next job, and I worked there up until the 2000s. And then I left that place, and that's when I got on that 3-year thing, where it seems like every 3 years I was changing jobs. And then so that's my life.
So it sounds like a good piece of advice for people too would be to check out the temp agencies.
That's what I do.
More companies like yours are hiring straight through temp agencies.
Yeah, a lot of good companies, good paying companies will hire through temp services. It's not like going to a temp service is going to automatically get you a crappy job.
Right.
No, I mean, it's just easy. Like I said, our human resource, my God, especially since the pandemic, who's got time to sit and call and do background checks? And I think the temps they've got all that.
To handle.
Because don't you have to pay and to check out the websites to do background checks. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and they do it. And the last one, she went to the temp service that morning, and I heard in the afternoon the drug test was clean, the background check was clean, and, you know, so it saves a lot of time.
Yeah.
Nice.
I agree. I mean, I know a lot of people have either bad experiences or they just don't. Oh my God, that's a huge difference. Anyways,
Well, most people, when I interview and I tell them they got to go through the temp service, they're like, oh.
Yeah.
So they must have not been good in the past.
either that or
Or
they
they-
have a preconceived idea that the only people who go through temp services are people who got like past problems.
No, I think what I'm getting is they think if they go to the temp service, it's a temporary job. And I have to and I have to convince them. I said, hey, 20 years ago, I went to the temp service, and I'm still here. And
Yeah.
I tell them how busy we are, how many, you know, and I said, we can hire you in a month.
That's a good point. You are right here. I am one of the people who every time I've gotten a job to a temp service, I got hired in by the company every single time, with the exception of Freshmark, and I called them and said I couldn't do it because of the cold. But every time I've gotten to a place through a temp service, the company had ended up hiring me, and I stayed there for X amount of time. So yeah, don't think that temp services only have temporary jobs. That's not true.
No, I don't think. I think the only people that look for temporary help anymore, I know the post office does it in the summer,
Yeah.
and they call them seasonals.
And then there's Minutemen. I think
And,
they still do it, don't they?
Maybe because they pay daily, but
Yeah.
just people that only hire temps. And I think a lot of that is just seasonal retail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know what? I just lied. Remember the time I got that job at that company? I had my own business in 2014, and we needed a little extra cash. So I called up the temp service, and they took me to that. Remember, it was up there on your way to your work to ASC?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I worked there for about through the summer, and then right before we left on vacation, that's when I told them I won't be back.
Oh.
So that was a temp job.
Yeah, but you told them they didn't cancel you.
That's true. Yes. So maybe it wasn't a temp job. Maybe I just kind of took it as I had no intention of actually working here forever. But,
Yeah.
but anyways, okay. Well, it's been over an hour. So
Yeah, we're good.
like I said, any last words? No.
Oh, thanks, Dinah, for being with us.
Oh, thanks.
Appreciate your skill and your input
Yep, your expertise
for
is
us
very
idiots, so
important.
I don't eat my
Oh.
words again.
I got one more thing. If
Okay.
anybody's looking for a job in the Akron-Canton area, just call the Gripe phone number, and I will get back with you.
Oh, there you go.
There you
So if
go.
you want to find out where Dinah works and or if they're hiring and what she does,
And we are hiring.
yeah,
And we start at 15 to 17.
there you go. So just either hit us up on ohiogripe@gmail.com, and I will forward your email to the correct place, or give us a call on the Gripe line, and I will push the information to Dinah here, and she can get back with you and let you know everything else. Maybe we'll have you back on to talk about the ASNT
Oh, okay.
industry.
Oh, my dogs are crying.
Yes.
Aw.
Because that, I think, just like you kind of accidentally fell into that along with
Yes.
Adam, correct? Both of you
Yeah.
did NDT.
Yeah,
I know a lot
temp
of people don't know
agency.
anything about it, and I think that there was a minute there you guys were going to try to change that to get more people to understand what that is and that the industry is quite lucrative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really hasn't caught on. There was Tri-C College in Cleveland had a whole NDT program, and we were going to bring in their people to get on the job training, and I don't think anybody signed up for it.
Yeah, I just
So-
don't think there's a lot of people out there that know anything about
No,
it.
and
Is
people-
it across the board? Is it a dirty job?
No.
No.
Not always.
Uh-uh.
I mean, they're
No,
like-
because
like
if you're
a lot of
working in a
jobs.
lab, most of them, the labs are climate controlled and clean.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we do got to go because we're 3 minutes over, but we will have you back on sometime, and we will definitely talk about that. If you want to know what the heck we're on about, is there a website they can check out real quick?
For what?
The ASNT or the NDT?
ASNT.org.
.org. Okay, and that'll tell them what NDT is and how to get involved?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, people, for listening. Even though no one's watching us on YouTube, that's okay. It's YouTube.
And for those out there looking, good luck out there.
Yep, definitely. And if you have any questions, hit us up. I'll have Dinah get a hold of you. All right, everybody.